His one true name forevermore is...
It was the Romanogram.
Ooh, now that was quite the villain reveal. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but if you recall, I did make a prediction last week that went a little something like this. For now, at this moment, I am putting my money on Sutekh. In all seriousness, though, I am not heartbroken that my Wild Ronnie prediction did not come to fruition this week. She is clearly not the one who waits. It turned out the entire rest of the internet was correct on their prediction. It was, in fact, the god of death himself, Sutekh. That being said, I had a blast making that video last week, and I hope that you all found it fun and interesting and entertaining regardless, you know? I still think the Ronnie is an awesome villain, and I still actually hold out hope that she could appear in the near future, in the next season or so, you know? And I don't want to get too into the weeds with it, you know, we can move on from now from the Ronnie, but I will say that in my research, I found additional evidence that I think point to a potential Ronnie return in the near future. I'll go over that a little bit more in my next video that I'm going to drop later this week, my Sutekh explainer / wild theories for the finale video. So I'll talk about that more up ahead. But, you know, just so you know, yes, clearly the Ronnie is not the one who waits, but I still don't think the Ronnie is necessarily out of the game altogether. But moving on, let's talk about the villain that has been revealed, the villain that is the big threat for this season, Sutekh, the God of Death. He was the villain everyone was talking about, and there was plenty of evidence that it could be him. I watched some pretty convincing theory videos on him before this episode dropped, and I was basically feeling 50-50 on it being either the Ronnie or Sutekh. Then the episode went live, along with its description on Disney+. Ancient evil, huh? Well, that's foreboding. As the episode unfolded, I got the distinct impression that my theory was wrong, as the cast presented and then gleefully dismantled every clue that I had put out there throughout the season, even going so far as to nod at how obvious the TARDIS anagram was, making a near meta nod to the still they released as promotional material a few days earlier. I gotta hand it to them. Their savviness with how the intranet Doctor Who theory crafting hive mind works is impressive. I mean, look, they literally had the same animation as me. They knew what people would latch onto.
The name is TARDIS technology.
Well, obviously. Thank you.
Even I got that.
However, it's kind of interesting. The episode treats the mystery as if the Doctor's granddaughter, Susan, is the conclusion everyone's come to. I barely saw any Susan speculation. It was mostly villain-based. I saw Omega, the Trickster, and lots of Sutekh speculation. But it seems like the community at large discounted the most obvious as a fake-out from the start. So it turns out it's Sutekh. I totally dig Sutekh. He's one of my favorite villains from one of my favorite classic Doctor Who stories of all time, The Pyramids of Mars. It's an awesome story. There's a reason that people bring him up so much. He's one of the coolest, most intimidating villains in the classic series. I remember liking and being scared of him as a kid because he came off so intimidating to the Doctor, toying with him gleefully, and pulling one of the gravest, most grimly determined, and genuinely fearful performances out of Tom Baker's entire career in the role.
Serve me, Doctor.
Never!
You pit your puny will against mine. Kneel.
No!
Kneel before the might of Sutekh.
The story was set in such a grounded, naturalistic atmosphere, in spite of the supernatural elements. The otherworldly space Egyptian aesthetic of Sutekh and his mummy robot stood in contrast, but still remained grounded and minimal in design. The voice of the actor Gabriel Wolfe pulled it all together, delivering a powerful, chilling, gleefully vicious performance fitting of an ancient god of death.
Identify yourself, plaything of Sutekh.
Gabriel Wolfe, who is now 91 years old, has reprised his role as Sutekh in these final two stories, playing the character for the first time since his initial appearance in 1975.
I am Sutekh, the god of death.
So that's awesome news. That actually makes me a lot more excited to see what he brings to the table next week. That being said, I think grounded is the key ingredient that's missing here. I think a lot of what made people love that villain was the overall grounded nature of the story, because it made you take it more seriously. It makes the supernatural godlike power stand out more. Sutekh barely moves a finger during the entire runtime of the story, but during his few minutes of screen time face-to-face with Tom Baker, he makes his effortless ability to inflict agony at will be shown. This new Sutekh looks more like he's going to be an Avengers villain or something, wreaking havoc on cities. I think that's fine, reusing a classic character in a modern context and supercharging them, so to speak, and he is a god of death. We'll just be seeing the actual destruction the Doctor showed us a glimpse of of before averting in the Pyramid of Mars. We'll see how the Doctor handles a fully prepared, fully powered, fully vengeful Sutekh. That could be interesting. I just hope we get to see the clever, witty, resourceful Doctor a bit more next episode, and that he doesn't just have his mouth hanging open in shock and awe of Sutekh's power in every scene. I think I am a bit disappointed that Susan Triad is just a trap set for the Doctor, just a puppet of Sutekh essentially. Considering the range of personalities and different character types that the actress played throughout the season, I was really looking forward to seeing the actress get a chance to sink her teeth into a meaty villain role, a role that would really allow her to chew the scenery. I do hope that she at least gets to play a fun role next episode. Maybe she can be a Marcus Scarman-esque henchman to Sutekh. Still feels like a downgrade though. And while we're on these mystery women, it looks like Mrs. Flood is also apparently an agent of Sutekh. Or is she? The way she turned suddenly to a villainous persona on Cherry was chilling, and I thought we might be getting an interesting character reveal. No, I don't think she's the Ronnie anymore. That ship has sailed. Or has it? No, for real though. No. For real, given the evidence that Sutekh was apparently present at the moment baby Ruby Sunday was abandoned by her mother at the church, it would make sense that Sutekh is tied to Ruby Sunday, if not her direct father, given the other people who were apparently the children of Sutekh. Harriet Harbinger, Susan Triad, and her doppelgangers throughout space and time all seem to have been created by Sutekh as part of a long-game prank/trap for the Doctor. So it would make sense that he'd be crazy and vindictive enough to plant a whole companion for the Doctor to pal around with as well. If that's the case, and Mrs. Flood is a Sutekh cultist, then it would make sense that Mrs. Flood was planted there to watch over Ruby and make sure everything went to plan. She clearly knew what a TARDIS was, and encouraged Ruby to climb aboard it, like it was planned. That leads me to believe that she must have either been a nursemaid or a protector, a guardian, an overseer of Ruby, planted there to watch her and make sure that she became involved in the plans the way that Sutekh wanted her to, right? Or she's Ruby's mother, you know? And she could still be a psychotic cult member of Sutekh, a follower, who gave birth to Ruby on his orders or whatever, and then planted herself nearby to watch over Ruby but not actually form any sort of a close bond with her. Okay, let's talk about the episode itself. I suppose it was okay. It had some great moments, and I did appreciate some of the building mystery sequences, but overall I don't think it hit as hard as it could have for me. It felt very long and drawn out at places, with an overcrowded cast all taking turns asking the same questions over and over again one after another. The round-robin style of companion juggling in this episode reminds me of the way the trio of companions were handled in the Whittaker era.
About that, do we have to?
I want more.
It also reminds me of an anecdote I know from classic Doctor Who. Early on in the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton's run, they decided to introduce a new third companion to the TARDIS crew, the Scottish Highlander Jamie McCrimmon. This addition was a somewhat last-minute decision, so the script for the following few episodes didn't feature him yet. To quickly resolve this issue, the writers simply looked at all the companions' dialogue and split it up, giving some of the lines that were meant for Troughton's other male companion, Ben, to Jamie, since a lot of companion dialogue acts the same way more or less, asking the Doctor questions, figuring stuff out, etc. This episode felt like that. It feels like they took all the companion dialogue that should have just gone to Ruby Sunday and diced it up and randomly distributed it to all the other secondary characters who are acting as pseudo-companions for this story.
How do you not know your own granddaughter? Is it the same woman?
It snows. You've got a time machine. Doctor, can't you just go back and take a look?
No.
That's not like you. You love to break the rules.
I feel like there's just too many people in this story. It's a very crowded cast. I think the fact that there are so many side characters here with nothing to do hurts the story's sense of cohesion. I don't dislike any of these characters per se, but I don't see what Rose added to the proceedings, for example, aside from giving Ruby and her a chance to meet. Ruby's mother was another addition that seemed like she was just awkwardly tacked onto the scenes rather than truly needing to be there, which is a shame because I like the character and wish she and Ruby had more screen time together, but in intimate one-on-one scenes that boost the relationship, not these crowded ensemble bits. There are some nice scenes with her that I do like in this story, but she also just adds to the overall cluttered feeling. I feel like one unfortunate side effect of how crowded the story is a lack of Ruby Sunday, the mystery girl herself. We get a few scenes centered around Ruby's mysterious mother, essentially rehashing the information we already know in a more dramatic fashion, but she has no real involvement in the proceedings aside from fetching the VHS tape and standing in the memory machine. A lot of key moments in the story that normally would have been covered by the main companion, such as Kate's heart-to-heart with the Doctor, or Mel's bolstering of his confidence, are farmed out to other secondary characters who need scenes to prove the relevancy to the story at hand. Now, while these are fine scenes and I do enjoy these characters, I can't help but notice Ruby's absence in these moments. and I feel like her mystery box is somewhat overtaking her character in this episode. Shooty is reliably charismatic, but again, I don't feel like he gets a ton to do here amongst all the table setting. His reaction to the death of the soldier is a standout moment, showing the frustration he feels after losing just one good person, especially since he's directly responsible for it.
You said not to move.
I know. But just look.
I also like his reaction to Unit's time window, arrogantly mocking how primitive it is, channeling a bit of Capaldi's bluntness, and he sells the uncertainty, as well as the guarded sense of hope he's feeling that he could be reunited with his granddaughter.
Like Morris said, probability of a trap, 95%.
96.
You see?
This episode also feels weirdly small and claustrophobic. For as big and epic as this story is supposed to be, it seems like it takes place almost exclusively either within Unit HQ or in the backstage and hall areas surrounding an empty auditorium. I don't know if we even step outdoors at all, more than maybe like one scene where Mel rides a bike or something. Maybe that's the intention, to give the story a tense feeling, like the trap is closing in around the Doctor, but it also has the side effect of making an overcrowded story feel simultaneously small and a bit chintzy. The empty auditorium that Susan Twist was giving her speech to seemed like a particularly odd choice, as if this was filmed during COVID, or they couldn't afford extras or something. Even just having the speech before a live crowd, complete with wall-to-wall media coverage, cameras flashing, etc., would have done a lot to heighten the drama and sell the world-shaking events unfolding before us. As for the atmosphere, I did really enjoy the creeping sense of dread that slowly built up over the course of the episode. The scene where they reconstructed the night on Ruby Road using the VHS tape was a highlight. I love the idea that time is a memory. That's a fun, fantastical way to look at it. The way they portrayed this effect visually was really well done, with tracking lines, glitches, and snow interweaving with the ghostly hologram-esque projection. I felt a shiver run up my spine as they stood amongst the projections and walked through the events of that night. Why can't they see her face? When will we learn the mystery behind this part of the story? RTD may not always deliver the most satisfying of explanations, but he's the master of stoking speculation, right up through the finale it seems. I was kind of shocked when the Doctor encouraged that unit soldier to, walk off into his death. And man, Kate Stewart afterwards, when he tried to apologize for that guy's death, the look that she gave him, oof. Daggers. They should have known better. I sure did. I knew he was dead as soon as he started bonding with Ruby over their shared neighborhoods.
Hey, is that a Manchester accent?
Proud to say, Mom. Cheetah Mill.
Oh, I'm Ruby, I'm from Tameside.
Good to meet you, Mom.
I double knew he was dead as soon as he decided to turn the exact opposite direction he should be looking and moonwalk behind the TARDIS. It's like he was trying to perfectly place himself within the kill box. Regardless of that little bit of telegraphing, this next section was pretty creepy. The voice emanating from the smoke was legitimately disturbing.
It's seen me. It's seen right into my soul. And it's so old.
I also really like the way the monster exits, with the device overloading. The way the dead man looks, turned to sand. It's an appropriately creepy and on-brand method of murder for a space mummy. I also really like how they discover the creature wrapped around the TARDIS, playing the VHS tape backwards like some satanic music listening party. I can't mention what video game it is without spoiling it, but there is a supernatural mystery game that came out recently that has almost exactly this mechanic incorporated into a part of it. A really cool mechanic that I think Doctor Who might just have borrowed from for this episode. But yeah, very cool way to utilize the natural creep factor and relationship to time that VHS tapes possess. However, I do hope we go into more detail next episode, describing exactly how Sutekh escaped from the imprisonment he was placed in. I don't think simply hand-waving it away using the Doctor's pouring of the salt at the edge of the universe is going to cut it. We saw that the Doctor left his TARDIS door ajar when he went to save baby Ruby, so I can guess that's how he was able to infiltrate the TARDIS, but that doesn't explain how or why he was there to do it in the first place. And that brings me to the big reveal at the end, which was scary for a while.
There is insensate, the god of disaster, and her children who doubt and dread. And standing on high is the mother and father and other of them all.
And then, unfortunately, got a little bit corny towards the tail end of it. The skull-headed people were looking a little Halloween mask for my taste, I'm sorry. Then there's Sutekh himself. In the original, we mostly see him like this. A man in all black, in a chair, glowing green eyes sometimes. Egyptian Darth Vader, right? Nice, minimal, on-brand design. We get to see his true jackal face a couple of times as well, of course. We get this horrific ghostly image in the TARDIS once, and a few other times his true face is revealed towards the end of the story, this time looking a bit goofier. But for the most part it worked. An occasional glimpse of the even more alien horror lurking beneath the mask. With that being said, I really hope that this isn't the main version of Sutekh that we'll be seeing for the entirety of the next episode. I don't know, he's just giving me more of, Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle vibes, more than Space Jackal God. He's just a little bit too cartoonish for my taste. It takes away from the intimidation factor of the moment. I really hope he possesses somebody or forms a body out of sand or something next episode, because I'd really prefer to see the Doctor facing off against another human actor rather than a CGI monstrosity for the whole story. Speaking of actors, Susan Twist's acting in these scenes is pretty impressive. The confusion and horror she feels as Sutekh's voice begins to bleed into her consciousness feels genuine, making the events feel real and terrifying.
In every dream I'm there.
That is, at least until she gets Monster Mash face and the CGI alien Splinter shows up, at which point the episode starts feeling a bit campy for my taste. Let's hope these sillier moments are just a slight misstep, and next week will present us with a truly terrifying villain, incredibly high stakes, and an emotionally gripping and dramatic epic to cap off the season. In hindsight, it makes complete sense that Sutekh would be the big bad. Russell T Davies has very clearly signposted the build-up of fantastical elements and godlike beings appearing more frequently in the show, and he's even brought back classic villains and deep-cut villains from the past, so it would all line up. He brought back the god of games, he introduced the god of music. It makes sense that the big bad at the end of the season would be the biggest god of all, the god of death. So I'm not disappointed at all by the choice of villain, as I think it perfectly fits in with the fantastical, god-infused themes of this season. My only concern is that it might not lead to the most compelling of character-driven drama in the finale next episode. And that's what brings me to villain characterization. I think I'm a bit concerned because Sutekh, as powerful and universe-threatening of a villain as he is not the most compelling of characters motivation-wise. He's your stereotypical evil for evil's sake villain, a "Bwahaha, I will destroy the universe" kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? He has some badass lines about his worldview in the OG story, sure.
Your evil is my good. I am Sutekh the Destroyer. Where I tread, I leave nothing but dust and darkness. I find that good.
But nothing you can really sink your teeth into. No spark of humanity or mutual understanding or respect the Doctor and the villain can reach within each other to, generate more complex moral dilemmas between the characters. He's just ultimate evil, wants to kill everybody, and the Doctor has to stop him. Sutekh is more of a force of nature than a character, a natural disaster that the Doctor just has to weather. I'm not saying that it can't still make for compelling television, but I guess it's just not the type of storytelling that I'm the most excited about when I'm watching Doctor Who, especially in regards to finales or the major villain he has to face off against. In the end, I didn't hate this episode, but it didn't blow me away as much as I was hoping it would. I can't deny that I was slightly disappointed with certain aspects of the story, as well as it making me feel slightly apprehensive about next week's conclusion. The episode felt overcrowded and weirdly empty at the same time, making what should be a globe-spanning epic threat feel strangely small and chintzy at times. The story has good scenes, but often feels like it's spinning its wheels, just passing time by reiterating and teasing mysteries we've already been aware of for the entire season without providing that many answers along the way. The entire episode just feels like a lot of setup, table setting for the events that will unfold in the finale next week. Aside from the massive reveal of the big bad, nothing else really moves forward plot-wise. Like several other two-part Doctor Who finales of the past, this first part feels like half a story, so I'm going to have to give it a placeholder grade at the moment, that being a B. That grade will either go up or down depending on how the rest of the story pans out next week. If the story is filled with drama and amazing reveals and high stakes and tension and deeply emotional moments and great characterization and character-specific motivated decisions and moral dilemmas, then, the grade will go up. But if the story is full of empty spectacle and maudlin, unearned emotional beats and Deus Ex Machinas, then the grade will go down. Given Russell T Davies' track record, I really honestly can see it going either way. But I guess we'll learn about that next week. As of right now, this story was just okay to me. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, it was just okay. I guess I've just seen other first parts of Doctor Who two-part finales that have left me more shook. with a more massive and emotionally impactful cliffhanger at the end, you know? So this wasn't bad, but it didn't hook me as much as some have in the past. You know, I guess I'll just say that. I'm still hyped. I'm still excited. I think this could be really amazing. Sutekh could end up being a great, perfect villain to bring back, and they could have an amazing, wonderful story planned for next week. But at this point, it's just very hard for me to tell. I don't feel like I was given enough this episode to feel completely confident about how this season's going to pan out. One last crazy theory for you, just to tide you over before I go completely up the deep end and give you my full, wild, insane theory later this week. And that is this. I believe that Sutekh has combined his being with the TARDIS, because they say they are enmeshed together or whatever. The unit people say they're wrapped together.
The scan says this life form is woven into the fabric of the TARDIS itself. All my ideas like it's part of it.
He has combined his being with the TARDIS because he has to. The only way that he is able to hang on to this plane of existence, to stay here and not get pulled back into the time tunnel prison the Doctor set for him all those years ago, the way he's doing it is by integrating himself into a time machine. That's the only way to resist the pull of the time tunnel, is for him to become part time machine. That's my big theory. And the way the Doctor is going to defeat Sutekh next episode is by figuring out that that is the key and doing something involving the TARDIS to disentangle the two beings and thus banish Sutekh back to his dark realm of hellish time tunnel or whatever. That's my big theory. That's my big tinfoil hat theory. My new one, I'm dropping it right there for you. I feel like it kind of holds some water. We'll see where we go with that. But that's what I'm gonna go with for now. That's my new crazy theory. You know, I guess I am hyped about next week. Like, obviously I'm already theory crafting like crazy. I'm gonna have a bunch of weird ideas, crazy ideas to present to you guys that you can choose to believe or not. You know, I won't hold it against you if you add a bit larger of a grain of salt to what I think might happen next week. But hopefully you'll still be there with me when I roll out my video in a few days. I'm going to do another history video, kind of like I did with the Ronnie. It's basically going to be that again. I'm going to do a full history of Sutekh. You'll learn all about his appearance on the show and subsequent extended media that has featured him. And then at the end of that video, I will give you all of my crazy theories that I'm talking about, that are rattling around in my head, that this episode has ignited in my head. And that'll be a good time. That'll be a lot of fun. So hope to see you there in a few days. And then after that, of course, is the big finale, the Empire of Death, which really should have given it away to me. I can't believe I overlooked how obvious that name was in connection to the God of Death, whatever. Anyways, in spite of my misgivings over how some of the season has flowed and been presented, some of the choices I made throughout it, I think overall I've really enjoyed watching this season. I think Ncuti has been an incredible Doctor. Millie has been a fun companion. The season has not been perfect, but there's been some real bangers that have come out of this. And I think overall the series feels like it's in good, confident hands. I have had a good time, and I'm looking forward to the finale. Hope to see you guys there when I review it. So until next time, Kay signing out.